Hey, what's going on, guys? Happy midweek. It's BJ with Bad Talks. Welcome back. Let me straighten this up a little bit. Welcome back. Hey, I'm here for the Kansas State preview that I promised you. A couple things I'm going to go over. I won't be too long today, 10 to 15 minutes like I like to keep it. But I appreciate you tuning in, and if you like what you hear, like I said, do a thumbs up. If you don't, do a thumbs down and let me know if you like it or not, or why you don't like it. And do me a favor, share with people, man. I'm in this for one like, or I'm in it for 20 million. I really don't care. I'm not getting anything out of this other than talking about my Longhorns. But let's get to it. It's Texas at Kansas State in Manhattan at 2:30 on Saturday. If there's one place I don't like to play on Saturdays, it's Kansas State. Texas hasn't won in Manhattan since 2002. I believe it is. Texas hasn't won in Manhattan, Kansas, since 2002, if my memory serves me well. Maybe 2004. Still, 14 or 16 years, however you want to choose it. Texas coming in at 3-1. Got moved up in the top 25, ranked number 18 in the country. Man, I look back, if we wouldn't have lost that Maryland, what if, right? But if we wouldn't have lost that Maryland game, we'd probably be sitting at number 11 or 10 or 11, right where Auburn's at. And it'd be justified because we'd be 4-0. But we're going in at 3-1, ranked number 18 in the country. Kansas State's 2-2. And they've struggled some. I mean, I'll get into a little bit of them. I did some scouting on them, but man, to be honest with you, I was kind of bored with them. They don't seem like the same Kansas State team, but I'll touch on that later. But it's a big week. Kansas State always gives Texas fits. Not sure why. Texas always has the better athletes, and we just have a hard time with them. And obviously, we can't win in Manhattan for whatever reason. I was listening to a radio station the other day, and they were talking about when they visit Manhattan when Texas plays in Kansas State, that a lot of the hotels have they make it uncomfortable for Texas fans and players, and they have purple couches and stuff like that make you want to get out and do something. When you look out the window, you're looking at nothing. So they make it uncomfortable for you out there. I mean, they got to drive 2 hours. I think they land in Kansas City or something, and then got to drive 2.5 hours just to get to Manhattan out in the middle of nowhere. So, I feel sorry for our Longhorns this week. It's not a fun trip. Nobody really likes it. But, it is what it is. It's another Big 12. It's another week to go. 1-0 in Big 12. 1-0 during the week, as Coach Herman says, but 2-0 in the Big 12, if you will. Texas players got a lot of mentioning this week. We're not used to that as Texas fans. It's been a few years since ESPN's kind of given us some love, and some Fox Sports talk and stuff like that's giving us some love. National radio stations talking about the Texas Longhorns. Number one, first thing they bring up is Todd Orlando's defense, and rightly so. These men are on a mission. I mean, -5 yards rushing to USC. I think it was 34 or whatever it was to TCU. That's 29 yards total rushing in 2 games against 2 ranked teams. That's domination, people. That's domination by Todd Orlando's defense. So I hope they could keep that up this week, man. I mean, Big 12 newcomer of the week was Caden Stearns. Caden Stearns played lights out. Absolute lights out against TCU. 2 interceptions, a few tackles. Guy was flying around the field and around the football. Several other honorable mention stuff throughout the country. I think Sam Ellinger had picked up not an award, but a mention. I can't remember what it was now. I saw it on Twitter. But 2 guys that they really talked about, I was listening to today. It might have been yesterday. But Colin Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphreys. People were talking about the Texas wide receivers and the depth we got. And if Texas can keep putting this thing together, they'll be dangerous. I've heard a couple people talk playoff run and all that, but let's don't put the cart in front of the horse here. We've beaten 2 decent teams, but we haven't beaten Ohio State. We haven't beaten Georgia. We haven't beaten Oklahoma yet. We haven't beaten, the top teams in the country. Although TCU's good, and USC's got good players, we're not there yet. Let's pump the brakes a little bit on that, guys. And again, that was one Texas mod talking about that, so he doesn't speak for everyone. I get that. If I read something in a different program that one person talks about a certain thing that I don't agree with, that doesn't mean I think the whole fan base does it. Unfortunately, Texas gets the, sorry for banging my hands on the table, but Texas gets the bad rap of Texas is back, and we're not saying that by any means. But we got some solid football players on defense. The defensive line played well. We talked about all that. The linebackers, cornerbacks, and stuff played well. And again, I hope the defense steps up this week. I do owe an apology to the offense. I have to do it. Because the other day, when I did my TCU reaction right after the game, I don't know if I ever do that again because I was emotional and I kind of said some things. And I talked about the offensive line not pass blocking. Yes, TCU put some pressure on Sel Mellinger a lot of the game. So I harped on Texas offensive line's ability to pass block. And I think I was unfair. I've watched the game a couple times. I watched, the Texas Overdrive. That's on Longhorn Network, and it breaks the game down into an hour. It just shows most of the plays, most of the important plays. But the offensive line played fine. They really did. I mean, there was a lot of times Sam stepped up in the pocket and drilled a nice pass, and they gave him the nice pocket to do that in. I should have mentioned the other day when I talked about the offense, but Patrick Vahe played a great game. There was one run play that Trey Watson, I don't remember when it was, I didn't write it down, but Trey Watson had got a run play up the middle, and he got a 15-yard gain, and I think Patrick Vahe got a 20-yard gain because he literally pushed his guy 20 yards and dumped him on his back and landed on top of him. And the guy got up and was like, oh my goodness, what just hit me? I mean, I'm sure, actually, Coach Herman brought it up when he did the, it's not the weekly with Tom Herman, but where he goes in and goes over the video with, or goes over the game with Lowell Galindo, and Rewind with Tom Herman, that's what they call it. And he talked about that block, that he showed that to the players in the meeting, and that's the culture that Texas wants to come with. Never quit, never give up. Down 14-3 against USC, down 3-0 against TCU, but they drove the opening drive. Old Texas players may have folded a little bit, but man, this team is tough. Like I love the way they play, man. It just, it's up and down the offense, but this defense is flying around. I'm really enjoying these guys, and I would, like I said, I owe an apology. They did fine. What scares me about this week, again, Kansas State, we have a hard time winning there, but it's also the week before Oklahoma. Oklahoma had a tough win against Army this week in Norman in overtime. Now, Army plays a different style of football, so Army could do the very same thing against us. So I'm not going to hold that against Oklahoma. I saw some Twitter stuff today that 4-0 Oklahoma fans are upset with their team. All right, whatever. But that's not Oklahoma week, it's Texas week. I hope Texas doesn't overlook Kansas State and get beaten Manhattan and before we go into Dallas to play Oklahoma. But yeah, we got to go, and I'm looking down at my notes, obviously, guys, but we got to go take care of Kansas State. They're always tough. They're coming off a tough loss to their Big 12 opener with West Virginia. They lost 35-6. And West Virginia started out sloppy, so they had 2 turnovers early, an interception on the goal line, and then a fumble around midfield. Now the defense held Kansas State and didn't let them score off of those turnovers, but still they played sloppy and still won 35-6. So I don't think this is the same Kansas State team that we're used to. There's some turmoil going on. I read today that Bill Snyder wants a certain. Again, I didn't get knee deep in their depth chart. Maybe I should have, but it's Kansas State. But Bill Snyder, he wants a certain quarterback to play, and coaches are advocating for another. So they're going at each other's throats right now. So they're going to start a new quarterback this week. As soon as I got my computer pulled up, it froze, and I was trying to get the names of this quarterback that's going to start this week, and I didn't get it, and I didn't look on my phone again. Like I said, I do one take. I'm not gonna go back, and especially when it's Kansas State. I'm sure you guys really don't care what Kansas State's quarterback name is. Just know that they're starting a new guy this week, and he's a pass run guy. It seems like they always do that to Texas. I hate when a new team or a team starts a new quarterback against Texas. In the past, we made this quarterback seem like they were Heisman candidates. It seems like every time. And Kansas State seems like they're the team that's starting a new quarterback against us. But whatever, we're going to try. Their O-line, so I don't know much about that quarterback, but their O-line is big and physical as usual. But it's nothing we can't handle. I think we got probably the biggest defense in the Big 12 versus offenses. Maybe other than Oklahoma. They got a really big offensive line, and we'll talk about that next week. But, man, this Kansas State, their line's big, but they're nothing special. Running backs are decent. Running backs averaging around 4.4 yards a carry. Between 65 and 70 carries in the first 4 games. Not a whole lot of carries. I mean, it's the same Bill Snyder team. They're not real explosive all the time. Although they've had a 72-yard touchdown, a 42-yard touchdown, a 37-yard touchdown. So they've made big plays this year and scored touchdowns. So they're capable of doing that. Moving on, they got big wide receivers. Their defense is solid. But again, man, they were getting pushed around by West Virginia. The linebackers are getting knocked off the ball. Their corners are getting beat. Corners aren't very big. Which leads me into Texas offense. Man, I really think our wide receivers this week, I'm at 11, 12 minutes, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. But our wide receivers this week should have big week. I really think they should. I mean, Colin Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey and Duvernay and those guys, they should have a big week this week. I think our running backs get going a little bit better. I think our offense is going to start getting a little bit better each week and leading into the Oklahoma week, because we all know the Oklahoma game is the biggest game of the year. But I think our offense is going to do fine this week. Keontae Ingram should be back. I don't think Brennan Eagles is back this week to help out the wide receivers, but we haven't needed him. Colin Johnson and Lil Jordan Humphrey are holding their own out there, which and more, at freshman. But the defense is where it's at. Well, let me go back real quick. I forgot to mention our red zone offense is only 69% right now. We got to get better. I think Sam had put a gold star chart up, and he wanted 80% in the red zone. 80% in the red zone is not very. I mean, it's good, but 70% of the teams in the country run 80% in the red zone. It's a lot of numbers for you, but it's a true statement. We got to get better in the red zone. We got to score. Hopefully, Dicker the kicker comes back this week and does better. Again, I might rush this a little bit, and if it's too short, guys, man, shoot me a message and let me know. If it's a little bit too long, whatever it is, because I'm trying to fill this thing out myself. So I'll get into my predictions. I know Rook, my best friend, likes to hear predictions. Obviously, I'm going to go with Texas this week. I think Texas wins big. I think Texas probably wins 40-14. I don't like to do scores, but this week I'm going to say 40-14. I think Texas gets it going and does well this week in preparation for Oklahoma. And the defense plays really well. We get to play a lot of young guys, all in icy whites out there in front of Manhattan, Kansas. Texas fans travel well, so I'm sure we'll have a decent crowd there. I wish I could make it out there, but obviously I can't. I think Texas wins this football game. We're a better football team. We got an older team. And we got some momentum. I know Coach Herman don't like the word momentum, but we got some momentum going for us right now. Finally, before I close, it's finally as nice as a Texas fan to feel confident about a football game coming up. I wasn't even confident about Tulsa, to be honest with you. Like, Tulsa could score. Definitely wasn't against USC, and I definitely wasn't against TCU. But I feel confident. Like, me and my brother were talking. It felt good back in the day. So I wonder how much Texas is going to win by this week, and then we would win by a certain amount. That's just what it used to be. Now it's, man, I hope what Texas team's going to show up. Not this week for me, guys. I really think Texas is going to show up. I think Texas is going to put it on Kansas State and put them on them good. So, guys, get out to the game. Again, I appreciate it. I'm BJ with Bad Talks. Hope you like what you hear. If you do like it, do a thumbs up. So hit the subscribe button for me. I'm seeing a couple pop up. I'm getting a couple subscribers, and I like it. You know, it's pretty cool. If you message me, I had a gentleman message me that he'd been in the Army 24 years because he knew I was military. Man, I appreciate you for your service, sir. If you're watching this again, thank you for doing what you do. You paved the way for young guys like me to come through the Army. Now I'm 21 months away from retirement. So guys like you, the reason it's made it so easy on me. Again, you see the ring. I'm not taking it off until we lose one. All right, guys, good luck. Get out to the game. Texas wins big this week and go 2-0 in Big 12. Next week, we got Oklahoma. Hook 'em.